Hi everyone, I'm going to show you how to make a viewfinder. This is something you're going to do before we meet again for next class. So the idea of a viewfinder is to essentially create a little window that you can look through in order to choose your composition. So here I'm, pretending that I'm holding this up and looking at a real landscape. But, I could choose to put the buildings low down in the left-hand corner, or kind of fill up the whole frame, and it's essentially like a preview of how my drawing is going to be composed. So the important thing about viewfinders is that they are in proportion to your drawing paper, right? So the pad I had you buy is 18 inches by 24 inches, so we call that the aspect ratio. If you ever watched old time TV, that was a 4:3 aspect ratio, so essentially like your drawing paper turned on its side. And when you go to the movies and you see those movies at the theater, they're 16:9. So aspect ratio is the relationship between the width and the height. So over here you can see 18:24, if we start to do some kind of, fractional math, divide that by 6, we get 3:4. So if we had a 3-inch by 4-inch piece of paper, that would be in the same aspect ratio as our drawing paper. And if we divide that by 2 again, then 1.5 to 2. Now it doesn't matter if you're using inches, centimeters, elbows, it doesn't matter what unit you're using, as long as the ratio is equivalent, you can measure with whatever measuring system you want to measure with. So I'm going to show you two different quick ways to do this. One requires a couple special things, and that's if you have index cards are 5 inches by 3 inches. So if you take a ruler and measure and chop an inch off, you have a 3:4 chunk, right? So we're in the same aspect ratio already. And then all you do is draw an X on that page and measure in, again, if you use the back of that index card, about 5 of those lines. Make a mark on each corner. Then that window will be just about 1.5 by 2, and you'll cut it out and you'll have your viewfinder. Super simple. But I'm going to show you a way to do this if you don't have any measuring devices, if you don't have a ruler, all that kind of stuff. All you're going to need is a couple pencils, or actually any type of stick or piece of paper that you can write on, and a pair of scissors or an X-Acto knife or a razor blade or something like that. So here's my piece of paper. My digits on my finger, this one's a little big, but on my finger, this digit is about 1 inch long. So if you have normal size hands, your end digit is about 1 inch long. Again, it doesn't really matter what exact measuring system we use, so we're going to use finger lengths. So what I'm going to do is take my other pencil here, and you could do this on a chopstick or whatever you have, and I'm just going to make a mark. That's my unit now, okay? It doesn't matter if exactly 1 inch or not. So I want to make a 3:4 card. I'm going to measure over 1, 2, 3 on this side of my paper, and at the top I'm going to measure over 1, 2, 3. And because I don't have a ruler to draw a line, what I'm going to do is just fold that paper onto those marks to get that line. Ooh, that was a little wonkus. I want to make that nice and even. There we go. So there we have our about 3 units, right? So then I can do the same thing with 4 units. 1, 2, 3, 4. Be a little more careful measuring this time to try to keep it square. 2, 3, 4. And at this point, I can just use the side of my pencil to draw a line, okay? Now here comes in, so we have our roughly 3, we have our 3:4 unit, right? It may or may not be exactly 3:4 inches, but either way, if we want to make the window in there, be the same aspect ratio as the exterior measurement, then all we're going to do is draw a line from opposite corners. Oops. Draw a line from opposite corners, like that. And then I can take that same unit. I want my window just a little smaller. The smaller the window, the kind of easier it is to compose a drawing, especially when things are close, like the kind of still life stuff around your house that we're going to be drawing this term. So I'm just going to arbitrarily make that maybe, you know, like a third or a quarter bigger. And I'm going to line that up on the corner and mark on those lines. Oops. There we go. Now, if I draw lines in between those, this will be somewhere around 2 to 1.5. Remember, it's not 2 to 1.5 inches, it's 2 to 1.5 units, right? So if you have a ruler, you can do the same thing, only you can, you know, measure exactly with centimeters or inches. If you don't have a knife, an X-Acto knife or a razor blade, that's fine. One trick for getting in there would be to just bend the paper a little and snip like that. And then you can cut, just cut right to the corner. Each corner. And then you can fold these back, or you can cut them off, or both. For time's sake, I'm just going to fold them back. And then I'm going to cut out my viewfinder. If you have a little heavier weight paper, that's nice, like a magazine cover can work good, then the paper's nice and stiff and won't go floppy on you. But I just flip this over and I have a nice clean viewfinder. I like to kind of just put a few marks in just to help me when I'm looking at my compositions see where maybe things are falling, you know, halfway across or a quarter of the way across. But you don't have to do this, it's just an extra little help. So what I mean by that is, now when I go to, you know, look at my landscape, I can see that, oh right, the tops of the buildings are about halfway down the length of my paper, right? And so when I take my drawing up to my paper, I know to start drawing the top of the buildings about halfway down. And sometimes those marks are helpful. All right, I hope that made a lot of sense. If it didn't, please email me, get a hold of me as soon as possible, and I will try to help you out. All right, good luck.